Chapter 24. Friday, 25th October. Dr. Judith Biddlestone, the counsellor Red had been recommended by RISE, the Brighton charity that helped victims of domestic abuse, was in her late 40s. Before becoming a counsellor, she had been a clinical trainer for the National Health Service, and she now worked out of a basement consulting room in the trendy North Lane district of Brighton, with burning candles around that made it smell like some kind of temple. Red thought she had a lean, athletic figure, short blonde highlighted hair, a cheeky, freckled face, and was dressed in jeans and a thin black t-shirt despite the autumnal day. Red had pedalled across town on her shit bike after leaving work later than planned. The couple she had showed around the Portland Avenue property yesterday suddenly appeared in the office, panicking that the weekend was coming up and that they might lose the house. They'd wanted to put in an offer, and Red had not wanted to miss out on any chance of a first sale. So now, over half an hour late for appointment at 6:35 p.m. on Friday afternoon, she and the psychologist sat opposite each other on beanbag chairs, sipping mint tea, while a stern crimson Buddha cast a watchful eye over them from the mantelpiece. This was the sixth session with Miss Dr. Biddlestone. Red started by bringing up her to speed on Dr. Carl Murphy, then finished by saying, "I do wonder if it's all my fault." "Tell me why you think that, Red." She spoke with the trance of a Newcastle accent. "I don't know. It seems, well, this sort of feels like I'm just useless. Everything I do seems to turn to shit. Maybe I'm just shaken up at the moment. I feel so down. Bereavement plays havoc with the human mind, Red. Tell me why you feel you are useless." "I suppose, I failed in my relationship with Bryce." "That's how you see it?" Judith Biddlestone frowned at her. "That's that you're the one who failed, not Bryce?" "I go round in circles in my thoughts, but yes, I do feel that sometimes. What I want to do in the short time we have is like us to recap on your relationship with him, Red," the psychologist said, "because there are so many gaps. Let's go right back to the beginning of your relationship with Bryce Laurent. I feel you are blocking important things out, not deliberately, but try really hard to remember all that you can." Red thought back hard. It had been 3 days after their first date that they had first slept together, and that had been truly amazing. They had made love. It had seemed almost all through the night. Never in all her life had she been with a lover so passionate and attentive. She felt totally, utterly, and intensely ravaged. She woke up on the Saturday morning in his arms in her flat, and they made love again and again a short while later. They spent most of the weekend in bed, ordering in first a pizza, then Chinese, watching old movies on television while drinking more vintage Redera crystal champagne, which he had nipped out and bought from an off-license. He liked her skin, he told her. He liked her hair, her teeth, her smell, her humour. She liked everything about him. "The following weekend he took me away," she said, "to a gorgeous country house hotel. He picked me up in his car in a beautiful Aston Martin convertible, which I later found out was rented." She closed her eyes and remembered how she had sat back in the soft seat, cocooned in the rich scent of leather, with the warm June air blowing in on her face. They slept in a suite with four-poster bed, gone for long walks along sandy beaches, and lunched and dined on endless glasses of vintage champagne and rich white wine. She told the psychologist all of this. "So when did it start to go wrong, Red?" Judith Biddlestone asked when she had finished. Red shrugged. "God, that's a big one. I think the truth is it went wrong way back before we ever met." The psychologist waited. "He had issues in his childhood." "What issues?" "I think he was abused." "What makes you think that?" "Something he let slip out a couple of times. It just made me wonder." "What did he let slip?" "Well, it wasn't much really. Sometimes when he was angry he would make a comment about his bitch mother. He hates smoking. I try not to let him see me smoking, but I remember one time he saw me and I said I was just like his fucking mother. But he wouldn't talk about her. I did try to get him to open up to me, but he would get angry almost instantly whenever I did, and violent, so I stopped." "When you tried to talk to him about his childhood generally, he became instantly angry and violent." "Yes." "And you believe that it was because he was abused?" "Well, that is what happens, isn't it? Abused children grow up to become abusers." "On occasion, but it's much more complex than simple cause and effect." "I'm interested that you make sense of Bryce's behaviour that way. Why do you think you did that?" "He was a total control freak and had a tidiness obsession. He was always tidying up." He gave a wan smile. "Bird shit on his car drove him mental. He'd wash and then polish and then re-polish the whole car whenever that happened. I live in close to Brighton sea front with skulls everywhere. That happened a lot." "What was that like for you?" "Awful. I felt like I was walking on eggshells most of the times, trying not to do anything that would just set him off." "And you told yourself he was like that because of his past. I've just remembered he once said I would understand him better if I knew about what his parents had done to him. Do you want to tell me about that? He kept telling me I was no good, that I couldn't cook, that I was a useless lover. He told me once that making love to me was like screwing a dead fish. My esteem was on the floor. I guess it still is. He made me feel worthless. But then after abusing me and hitting me, he would start sobbing, begging me for forgiveness, promising to change. It was during one of those outbursts for forgiveness, he said, I would understand him better if I knew about what his parents had done to him. Did he tell you what he meant? No, he wouldn't talk about it. I figured it must have been really bad, though. You called the police numerous times during the later part of your relationship, didn't you tell me? Yes, there was one particular officer, Constable Spofford, Rob Spofford, a young officer on the response team who was particularly kind to me. He's now on the neighborhood policing team covering my area. He told me that he'd regularly seen his own father be violent to his mother. He was the one who put me in touch with the sanctuary scheme and who kept trying to convince me to end it with Bryce. Do you have any understanding of what prevented you taking PC's prophet's advice and leaving Bryce at that point? She shrugged. I don't know. Bryce's constant bullying got to me, and he was always so remorseful afterwards. I guess I really believed I could help him. Ah, so might it be your belief that Bryce had been abused as a child that kept you in the relationship? Stupid, huh? Why be so harsh with yourself? I didn't learn, did I? I thought I could help him. I thought if I could just get him to open up about his childhood, he would be nicer to me. But the more I tried to get him to talk, the angrier he got. Just notice how little compassion you have for yourself right now and how at odds that it is with your very evident compassion for the hurt you believe Bryce experienced. See, I can't even get that right. Is that how Bryce made you feel, as if you got things wrong the whole time? Constantly. I thought I was going mad a lot of the time. The more I tried to get things right, the more I messed up. I've done almost anything to have him be nice to me. And did you put up with almost anything in the hope that he might eventually be nice to you? I've been thinking about that, Red said. The thing is, the making up part was so incredible. Suddenly, the person who hated me and hurt me so much turned into a gentle, loving creature. He would make me think that the row had been all my fault because of my inadequacies. Your inadequacies? Red laughed. Yes, I've got a whole list. Do you want to hear them? I suspect we used the last of our time together today much more profitably than reinforcing Bryce's distorted take on reality. I've got a copy of a report PC Spofford sent to the secretary in your file. Did you see it follow a discussion of your case at a MARAC meeting? MARC Red inquired. Yes, it's a fortnightly meeting attended by the police victimization unit, the housing service, the health department, the education department, and various welfare and medical agencies to look at all those high risk in domestic abuse situation. It stands for Multi-Agency Risk Assessment Conference. Judith Biddlestone opened the red plastic folder and pulled out several sheets of printout. You sign an authorization for me to obtain this report. I'll just read you a little of it. This is what he wrote. I'm extremely concerned about Miss Westwood. I believe she is in an abusive, violent relationship which is a real threat to her future safety and well-being, and that Sussex police need to take action. I can see the pain inside her eyes. I can see someone inside her crying out. She's terrified. Tears welled in Red's eyes as she listened. She nodded. Yes, she said, her voice barely made above a whisper. I was terrified. I couldn't see any future. I couldn't see any life beyond Bryce. I guess, with Carl, I was just starting to feel that maybe some kind of happiness was possible. The psychologist handed her a tissue and Red wiped her eyes and sobbed for some moments. Shit, what the hell's wrong with Bryce? He has all this charm, charisma, and real talent, but it's like he's got this may sound strange. It's like he got a failure gene. It's, if there's such a thing, and he's spent his whole life kicking against it. What do you mean by failure gene exactly, Red? I guess the thing is he's got so much talent. He's actually a brilliant artist. He can draw really well, and he's a really talented cartoonist. He's tried to get work published in newspapers, magazines, but he never has so far. He did nearly get a cartoon published in private art a couple of years ago, but they want him to make a minor change, and he refused. He told them to go to hell. I tried to convince him to do what they wanted, that, the change was no big deal, and it would make him a published artist, and that more might come of it. He just lost it, raged at me, and told me I didn't understand the integrity of his art, and went berserk. He totally lost the plot. He threw wine in my face, and he started hitting me. He just went wild. I really thought he was going to kill me. I tried to get out of the flat. I was hysterical. He wouldn't let me go. He grabbed me. He's very strong. He works out obsessively. I locked myself in the toilet and dialed the police. Then he started crying, telling me no one had ever loved him before. No one had understood him, begged me to forgive him. It's a memory, Red. You're safe now. But it feels so real, like it's going to happen all over again. I know, but it ended. You do know that, right? Tell me how it ended. The police turned up. It was PC Spofford and a woman officer. I let Bryce do the talking. He told them it was all a misunderstanding. They asked me to confirm this and whether I wanted Bryce removed. I told them yes, it was a misunderstanding. I wanted him to stay. Of course you did. To disobey Bryce wasn't smart, right? Red was silent for some moments. Yes, she said finally. I felt he was so mixed up, she shrugged, and I thought maybe it was love that he needed, that if I loved him enough, I could change him. You know what they say about when a man and a woman fall in love? No, the woman always hopes she can change him. The man always hopes she will stay the same forever. Red gives a thin smile. Is that why all marriages end in disappointment? Not all, but many, and she smiles. So Bryce's failure, Jean, it's his ego that held him back. He has a massive ego, that's for sure. He's a good magician too. He specializes in close magic. He used to tell me that he was better than anyone else, and one day he would be more famous than Siegfried and Foy and David Copperfield. He really believed that. When I first dated him, he had several gigs a week, but they started dropping off. I think because he kept losing his temper and with people who weren't paying attention, or when one of his tricks didn't quite work. Oh, he was also obsessed with Houdini. He said he was a better escapologist than Houdini. He used to make me tie him up and handcuff him, and he would escape within minutes. He made you tie him up? You didn't want to? No, I'm not into bondage. That was more than escapology then. Did the bondage always involve him being tied up, or were you tied up by him also? Red whispered. Mostly he tied me up, and that really scared me. He pushed it constantly to the limit when I really thought I was going to suffocate. Just notice your breathing, Red. You're safe now. She took a few moments to calm down before she went on. I get so scared when I think of him and the things he used to do to me. I know, breathe, it helps. Red breathed in and exhaled several times. Then she gave a humorous laugh. It's silly that just remembering him makes me feel like I am suffocating again. I'm so stupid. It is not silly and you're not stupid. I loved him. I really did. I was intoxicated by him. I thought for a time in those early days, but we were soulmates. I really do. He used to tell me that we had met before in a previous life and that this may sound stupid or naive. I believed him. It doesn't sound stupid or naive, Red. Often when people meet and fall in love, that's what they feel. A connection that is so incredibly powerful. That was you and Bryce. It was, yes. I thought I had met the man I would have children with and with whom I would spend the rest of my life with. Shit, I was so dumb. You're being harsh with yourself again, Red. Let's talk about the fact that you did get out of that relationship. Something even you couldn't label as silly, stupid, or dumb. What was the turning point? My mother, I think I told you is a prison visitor and also a life coach. Yes, you did. My mother irritated me so much. She kept saying she didn't like him, didn't trust him. You know what I thought? The psychologist shook her head. Well, it may sound strange, but I thought she might be jealous. You thought your mother might be jealous of your boyfriend? That's not uncommon, you know. Rest shrugged. My mother confided in me years ago that the spark had gone out of her marriage to my father. She and I were always very close. We talked about these things in the early days. Bryce seemed so perfect, so attentive, and she had told me how attentive my father had been to her when they were courting. I started to feel that maybe it was bringing those memories back for her. So you discount your mother's misgivings about Bryce? Possibly, I don't know. I was truly besotted with him. I'd never met anyone like him who was so into me. I worshipped the ground he walked on. He was sometimes so kind, such fun to be with. God, this is embarrassing to say, but he was so incredibly sexy in bed. He pushed all my buttons and found some I never knew I had. It wasn't until after we had moved in together that I began to realize what a control freak he was. It seemed okay at first. He would take me shopping and decide on my outfits and pay for them. I was flattered for a while, but then he started questioning me about every second of my day, demanding to know where I had been, if I had been out with my friends. He wanted to know what I had drunk, what I had eaten, who had paid. Right now, as you tell me all that, what are you aware of? How stupid I feel. I lived with him all for all that time. Notice, Red, that you seem to tell yourself that Bryce was controlling, violent man because he himself was abused as a child, and also that you are stupid for having stayed with him. Both beliefs exonerate Bryce of responsibility, and both place significant responsibility upon you. That's because it was partly my fault. Do you know, I don't think I've ever met a woman who was abused who didn't believe to some extent that it was her fault. Do you think it could have been all of their faults? Of course not. What makes you different then? I knew things weren't right even before he became violent. One morning when I got up to go to work, Bryce had taken all my shoes. He wouldn't let me have any back until I had sworn my dying love for him. How did that make you feel? Well, at the time, although I was furious, I was flattered. I liked the idea someone loved me so much that he would do that. Call me naive, but it went downhill rapidly from there. The real turning point for me was I didn't know she had done this, but my mother had secretly hired a private tutor to look into Bryce's past. Bryce told me he was working at an air traffic control at Gatwick Airport. My mother gave me the detective's report. Bryce had lied. He never worked in air traffic control at all. He'd had a job a couple of years earlier on the ground staff at Gatwick in the flight training area and had been sacked after apparently endangering the life of another employee and then punching his manager. He'd been deported from the US after getting into a fight with a previous girlfriend and doing a 3-year jail term there for violent assault. He'd also said he used to be a pilot in the US, but he never had a pilot's license. The psychologist shot a discreet glance at her watch. I'm aware this the time, Red. We have just a few minutes left. There's certainly not enough time to unpack all that you have just told me. Can we break it in and put it in the agenda for our next session? Sure. Dr. Biddlestone spent the last couple of minutes of the session making sure Red felt sufficient well grounded to cycle home. Then she said, I'll see you on Monday, Red. 8:30 a.m., 8:30 a.m. Bryce, who was listening to every word, transmitted from her bugged phone, made her note his electronic to be sure to be listening in then. Chapter 25, Friday, 25th of October. Today was going to be a busy shopping day, and did he have a long list to get through? He needed supplies for all his plans, quite a bit of the stuff he could buy online, but that would be traced easily. Better he knew to buy all the gear from shops, paying cash. Had plenty of that thanks to his dear sweet mummy obligingly dying much earlier than she or he had expected. Loads of the stuff. £750,000 of it net. After the thieving estate agents had taken their commission and the thieving solicitor had had his sticky paws in the jar, he had plans for them both, but they could wait. His first stop was the hardware store, Dockrell's, on Church Street in the centre of Brighton. He had selected it because it was always busy and no one was likely to remember a man in baseball caps buying pliers, bolt cutters, a blade cutter, a duct tape and small hammer. Next he drove in his rented-car to electrical supplies warehouse just off Davador Road in Hoe, where he'd brought an assortment of timers, mostly ones with a range of 1,000 metres or more, 4 digital relays and 1,000 metres of nichrome wire. Next stop was RF Solutions on the Cliff Industrial Estate outside Lewes, where he had bought a selection of relays and switching units. Then he drove across to Lansing Business Park and bought 3 car batteries from which he could obtain sulfuric acid and some specialist adhesive tapes. And from a news agent on the way back he bought an assortment of AA and AAA batteries. He also bought a burger from Mobile Road's side store on the main road back to Brighton, where he was unlikely to be remembered. All this shopping had given him an appetite. After lunch he bought from a garden centre a couple of miles away several sacks of sodium chlorate regular. Then, tugging a baseball cap low over his face, he drove out to Gatwick Airport and entered the long stay car park, collecting a ticket from the automated gate. He followed the signs for today's vehicles, winding around the rows and rows of parked cars. A bus passed him, stopped a short distance away, and several people lugging suitcase boarded. Happy holiday, he thought with a twinge of sadness, looking at one couple who exchanged a kiss before climbing up the stairs. That could have been him and Red jetting off to some sunny paradise, maybe the Maldives. A suited businessman carrying one of those overnight bags with built-in suit holders boarded also. Have a good trip. Come back with that deal. He reversed into an empty bay, switched off the engine and waited, looking around for any CCTV cameras. He saw one some distance away, but there were no others. Then he waited as dusk slowly fell. The weather was closing in, drizzle falling from a darkening rain-laden sky. Perfect. Someone drove a brand new Jaguar XF in, which was of no interest to him. Then came a 1-year-old Mazda MX-5, again of no interest. Then a Porsche Cayman, no good. A Ford Focus, too recent a model, followed by a Lexus Saloon, too recent also. Then bingo, a 10-year-old BMW 5 Series, and almost unbelievably he reversed into the bay directly opposite him. Meant to be. He watched the middle-aged couple get out, dressed in summer clothing in which they looked ridiculous in this weather. The man was wearing a Panama hat, and the obese woman was wearing what looked like a floral wig. The man removed a briefcase from the rear seat and his wife a large handbag. Then the man popped the boot lid and removed two enormous wheeled suitcases, locked the car, and then headed off towards the nearest bus pickup point. Maybe they had both been beautiful young things once, he thought, like him and Red. 10 minutes later, they boarded a bus. Happy holiday, he thought. You ugly fuckwits. As soon as it was dark, it was going to as soon as it was as dark as it was going to get, he left his car, pulled the hood of his raincoat over his baseball cap until it almost totally obscured his vision, then grabbed the tools he thought he might need from the rear of his van. With their stupid clothes and all their luggage, that couple were going where for a while for sure. He had all the time in the world. With a single blow of his hammer, he smashed the side window of the BMW, reached inside, yanked the door handle. The alarm popped. He ducked inside, yanked the bonnet, released the handle, raised the bonnet, and rapidly cut the alarm wires for silencing it. Then he looked around. Warily, his nerve jangling, but no security guard came running apart from an empty bus making its round like a forlorn rowboat searching for a soulmate. The car park was deserted. He clamped a protective blocking disc which he had stolen from a fire engine department equipment at the airport over the BMW steering wheel. It was designed for firefighters to cut people out of crashed cars when the airbag had not deployed to prevent it doing so accidentally. Then he ducked under the wheel and with his blade cut away the protective outer shield of the airbag. Next, being careful to avoid the trigger sensors, he sliced into the airbag itself and allowed the salt white sodium acid crystals to fall into the plastic beaker he had taken from a filling station on the way here. Sodium acid was one of the most toxic chemicals in the world. It was far more rapid acting than cyanide, and unlike cyanide, where the poison would be neutralized with amyl nitrate, there was no antidote. It was tasteless and would bond with the hemoglobin in the blood, causing death within minutes, and it had the bonus of being virtually undetectable unless you were specifically looking for it. He wasn't sure he would need it, but it gave him another option. You could never have enough options. Oh, baby. Oh, Red, you should never have driven me to this. Really, you shouldn't. I'd hate to think of you swallowing sodium acid. Really, I would, but I guess if the truth be known, I would prefer that to seeing you screw Dr. Carl Murphy. But sodium acid is not a nice death, not nice at all. Mercifully quick, that's the upside. But after what you did to me, would I really want it to be quick? If you want to know the truth, Red, I would really like to see you suffer, to hear you scream out how much you love me, how desperately bad you want me back, that you would do anything to get me back, that you would swallow sodium acid if that's what it took. Then I could look you into your eyes and say to you, sorry, Red, that there is no antidote. If you stayed with me, you would be looking forward to a whole long future. Kids, grandchildren, family, Christmases, happy old age, all that stuff. And now all you have is less than a minute. Moments to contemplate your regrets, moments to think about how sorry you are, moments to think how good it could have all been for you and me. People often say that's how it goes in life. Shit happens, but that's a cop out. You know what the reality is? Shit falls from its own weight. Think about that. He flipped back through the early text from Red on his phone. Stopped at one. God, I so love what you do to me. I'm so full of sweetness and love that when I think of you. And I like that, actually. I love that. These feelings are awesome. Wish you were here right now, holding me naked in your arms and deep inside me. Shielding the cup against the falling rain, he hurried back to his van and eased himself back into the driving seat, put the cup into a plastic bag and carefully knotted the top, sealing it. Sodium acid would kill someone agonizingly within 60 seconds. It was only found in older car airbags, and with they were deployed in collisions, the other chemicals in their neutralized set. By the time the ugly couple returned from their holiday and found their BMW had been broken into and the airbags tampered with, he would be long gone, and maybe the sodium acid would be long gone too. God, Red, I can't live without you, and I can't watch you with another man, really. The pain would be too much for me to bear. Blame it on your parents. The poet, Philip Larkin, got it right, didn't he, when he wrote, they fuck you up, your mum, your dad. They may not mean to, but they do. Oh boy, Red, yours really did royally. Thanks for listening.